Okay, we are on page 132. Number 6, we're going to continue with another situation in which we're going to multiply, and one factor is going to be a decimal, and the other factor is going to be a whole number. Please have your place value chart out as well, and I'm going to read number 6 out loud. Please follow along closely with me. It says the owners of the 7 Seas Spice Company want to sell twice as much spice in the future as they do now. The table shows how much spice they sell in a week now and how much they want to sell in the future. Show how to get the answers by adding. And then looking at the table, we have 4 different spices: cloves, cinnamon, ginger, and pepper. And then in tons, we have how much they sell in a week right now. So for cloves, they sell 3/10 ton. For cinnamon, they sell 400 ton. For ginger, they sell 700 ton. And for pepper, they sell 6/10 ton. And then going back to the problem, it says they want to sell twice as much spice in the future as they do now. What I'd like you to do in your book, please circle that word twice, or maybe even twice as much. That would be even better. Anytime we come across twice as much in a real life situation or in a word problem, that means that we're multiplying by what number typically? By 2. Okay? So then we have a multiplication problem set up. They take the amount in tons in which they're selling right now, and they're multiplying that amount by 2, and they get their products here for each of these multiplication problems. So for example, for cloves, if we multiply 3/10 times 2, they got 6/10 ton. 400 times 2, they got 800 ton. And there is going to be a rule that we're going to be following along with in this lesson to solve using multiplication. But before we get to that, they want us to show how to get these answers by adding. So remember, with multiplication can always be turned into repeated addition, or in this case, just addition. Because if we're multiplying something by 2, it's the same as just adding itself by itself just one time. So for example, for 3/10 times 2, it's the same as 3/10 plus 3/10. Okay, so we're going to be filling in this part of the table to show how we can get these answers again by adding. So let's get our place value charts out. They did the first one for us, cloves. They said 2 times 3/10 equals 6/10 because 3/10 plus 3/10 is equal to 6/10. And lining up our place values is really important with these addition problems. So we're going to be using our place value charts to help us out with this. For cinnamon, they said twice as much as 400 is 800 because 400 plus, well, we're going to add itself again, 400, which is the same again as 400 times 2. And now on our place value charts, let's add this addition sentence in. 400 plus 400 on the first line. Let's put in 400. 4 is going to end in the hundreds place value. Plus 400. Easy peasy. You could probably do this mentally, but just to be sure to always get our answers correct, it's never a bad thing to be putting into our place value charts. Go ahead and add. What's 400 plus 400? Hopefully easy peasy, 800. That should have taken you like 1 second to do. 400 plus 400 equals 800. And that's also what they got when they multiplied. I wonder what other way we could use or do to solve this. Be thinking about that. Okay, go ahead and erase your place value chart. And let's take a look at ginger. Ginger is being sold right now at 700 tons, and twice as much, or 2 times 700 tons, they're saying is equal to 1,400 ton. How did they get that? Well, let's use addition to solve. because we're going to add 700ths into these lines. The same as multiplying 700ths times 2 is adding itself. 700ths plus 700ths. Go ahead and put that into your book just like I do. And then transfer it over to your place value chart. 700ths plus 700ths. And you are going to solve again. It should take you 5 seconds to solve. Go ahead and do it. Did you get 1400ths? I really hope so. 7 plus 7 is 14, so we put a 1 in the tenths, 4 in the hundredths in our solution. 1 plus 0 is 1, and then just bring down the 0 to hold the place value of ones, and we get 1400ths ton. It's also in your book, and we're also going to put our answer here into our book on this side as well. 1400 tons. Go ahead and erase your whiteboard. And the last spice that we're going to look at is pepper. Pepper is being sold at 6/10 tons right now, twice as much as 6/10. Well, 2 times 6/10 is equal to 1 2/10 tons, because let's add in our addition sentence. 6/10 plus 6/10. Set it up on your place value chart. 6/10 plus 6/10 is equal to what? 6 plus 6 is 12, which gives us 1 2/10. And again, your answer is over here as well. 1 2/10 tons. All right, you can erase your whiteboard and take a look at these. Our completed table. Is yours complete like mine is? We're going to be looking for some patterns here. I'm going to read number 7 out loud. Please follow along closely with me. It says, look at the number of decimal places in each decimal factor and the number of decimal places in each product. What pattern do you see? So remember, we're looking at decimal places for in our factors and in our products. And before we even do that, remember, decimal places means how many place values are there in each number after the decimal or to the right of the decimal. So anything in the tenths place, the hundredths place, or the thousandths, we're going to be counting those digits. So, and we're going to be looking at our decimal factor and the product. So let's look at the multiplication sentences that are in the third column here. And let's count out the number of decimal factors for each one. So for cloves, we had 2 times 3/10. 3/10 is our decimal number. How many place values or decimal places are there for the number 3/10? Let's underline it. There's just one. Okay, 3 is in the 10th spot. That's 1 decimal place for this one. Okay, so maybe actually we'll just keep it up in our head. Okay, for 2 times 400ths tons, how many decimal places are there in the number 400ths? Well, we're looking at the decimal, and anything to the right of it, 1, 2 is a decimal place, and I count out the 0 and the 4, so that's 1, 2 decimal places to the right of our decimal. Let's do it again for 2 times 700ths. How many decimal places are there for 700ths? 1, 2. 2 times 6/10. How many decimal places are there for 6/10? Just 1. And go ahead and underline the 1 place value with me, the 6 in the 10th spot. All right, and then it says, and the number of decimal places in each product. So let's look at the product then here. Our product is our answer to our multiplication problems. And let's take a look. So 2 times 3/10 is equal to 6/10 ton. How many decimal places are there in the number 6/10? 1. So let's underline it. This digit 6 is in the 10th place. 2 times 400ths equals 800 tons. How many decimal places are there in the number 800ths? 1, 2. 2 times 7 hundredths is equal to 1400 tons. How many decimal places are there in 14 hundredths ton? 1, 2. Before we move on to the next one, do you see a pattern here? What pattern do you see is the question we're looking out for. What is the pattern that you see in relationship with the decimal number and the product? Okay, what I'm seeing, and I'm hoping you're seeing it too, the number of decimal places in the decimal factor is going to be the same or is the same as the number of decimal places in our product. So, for example, our first one, we had 1 decimal place here, we have 1 decimal place here. 2 decimal places in our factor, 2 decimal places in our product. 2 decimal places in our factor, 2 decimal places in our product. Let's take a look at the last one. 6/10, 1 decimal place. 1 and 2/10, how many decimal places? Yep, it has to be 1. 1 and 1. Okay, let's type that into our book. Sorry, I'm going to type it into my book. You're going to write it into your book. Here's the pattern that we see. The number of decimal places in the product is the same as the number of decimal places in the decimal factor. I'll read that out loud one more time. Let me change the color maybe to make it a little more easier to see. The number of decimal places in the product is the same as the number of decimal places in the decimal factor. Remember, factor times factor is equal to product. So the number of decimal places over here has to be the same as the number of decimal places over here. And then once you have number 7 down, do you have that in your book? It's really important that you do. Number 8 said, is this the same pattern you saw in problems 1 through 4? Yes, sir. So in the money situations, we were looking at 2 decimal places in our factor and 2 decimal places in our product. And that was the same for all of those money situations. For this spice company situation, we had a different amount for each of the spices. For example, for cloves, we had 1 decimal place is equal to 1 decimal place. In cinnamon, there was 2 decimal places equals 2 decimal places. So whatever the number is over here for decimal places has to be the same as the number of decimal places over here. So for number 8, our answer is yes, same pattern. And we're going to apply these patterns now to many multiplication sentences.